and have to buy, well, you wouldn't have to buy any side rails for that because the two side rails that are in the 7 section would be moved together, so there'd just be, let's say, 4. And you have 3 sets of bleachers you can do something with that aren't gonna have side rails and aren't gonna have risers. Now, at the start-finish line, I don't really think you need maybe risers there. You put them close enough to the fence where the crowd wouldn't stand up on the fence, you could probably be okay there. But you'd still need some cement pads to set them on, or the rock would probably work. But at the softball field, I don't believe there's any cement there. There's dirt, if they just put that on. It's on dirt. It's on dirt.
Is that something you think somebody here locally would tackle that, or are we looking at it?
It's not that big a deal, to be honest with you. They said that, Bruce says you can, the way they put the bleachers on, I think he said they've taken some off before on that main part, and they just take a track holder chain and just grab it and set it off. They don't weigh that much, they're just not a big deal. Once you get them sitting on the ground, they're not dangerous at all, so. And pouring pads of cement for the bleachers to sit on is simple, and that's not.
But we're not talking about it being something our staff would do. Or we are?
No, something like, I know that they're the ones, Bruce and Dave were the ones that put the risers on the set of bleachers for the Bisbee side. I know they did that, and they put the side rails on before. That could be something that we're certainly capable of. But whether, the risers are just gonna come in a bunch of kits with cross braces and beams on it, that's all they really are, so. Anybody can put it together, I guess. But as far as pouring the cement and carrying out the other post, that needs to be probably get out. But it just depends on what you want. I mean, I've got an idea of what I think should be there, but that doesn't mean everybody agrees with it. That's,
I'd like to take what's there off
yep,
and demo with the base, all the bases, and have our athletic people and our maintenance staff, get them together to decide where to place these things.
yep.
I mean, I think they'd have a better understanding of.
Well, that's kind of what I did. I did some of that. I talked to Town Houston, and I talked to Bruce as far as the complaints he hears from moving whatever and where he thinks people need to have stuff. And he goes to a lot of those events. But yeah,
Talk
exactly.
to track coaches.
Yep. Well, there's a track coach right over here.
I like that idea. Just take take two sections and put them on the ground by the finish line
Yeah.
and leave, then put one section on the other side and you're good to go.
If you don't put those 2 sections on risers though, are you kind of defeating the first couple rows though?
I think you are. I do.
Well, if you don't have anybody in front of you.
But
I
that,
mean,
you're
to
gonna have
put-
people in front of you.
Well, but they have those little bleachers now and they don't.
Yeah, the little bleachers, nobody stands in front.
Nobody
But you
stands in
couldn't
front of
help
them, but you can put them up. I mean,
Put 'em up. Bruce said he was supposed to get prices one time. The riser sets aren't that expensive. I mean, to put them on risers, whether you put them on risers or whether you lay them flat, you probably still have to have a pad of cement. So that's a fixed cost. The riser sets, he was telling me, are maybe $1,000 a set, and that's probably high.
and maybe if you're talking about a safety issue, maybe with those bleachers being that close to the fence, maybe that isn't safe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The problem with the risers is, if you do the risers, then you're gonna have to have a rail, a front rail, which might be in the way of every of the first 3 or 4 people, you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
So I don't know the best options, but I did talk, I'm sorry about that, I did talk to Larry Town Meeting, who goes to most of the events, knows all that stuff. He thought that was, in general, a good idea. The only thing I thought of that might be lacking is whether you need another set of bleachers over the softball field. Because if you have 7 sets that are at the home side of the football field right now, and you take 2 to the start and finish, and you leave 4, you only got 1 left to play with. And that would actually end up either going to the softball field, or the only one that's at the softball field is actually at the visitor side right now. There's 2 there and they take 1 over there. So If you wanted two at the softball field, you're actually gonna have to buy a whole other set of bleachers too. Or, instead of leaving 4 on our side, you'd leave 3 on the home side for the football field.
Well, let's suggest this. I think we gotta get more people involved. If you set up a time and if anybody from the board wants to meet and go over some suggestions and get moving. If we don't do it this summer and get started right away, it's not gonna be done by the fall.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, as far as Telly and Bruce or somebody, and you guys, or one of you guys is still on the site committee, and Dave wants to take a look at it, as long as we knew what time, maybe they're gonna take a look at it, at least everybody would have an opportunity maybe to, if they wanted more information. I don't know, does that sound okay, or?
Yep.
What do you wanna do about a press box?
We have to have something for track, don't we? I mean, that's a requirement.
I guess you can ask the same guys the same
Have
thing
to
and see
have
what they think,
Yep.
and, you know, be included in part of that
I mean, that's,
conversation. I don't-
if you don't have it, you're not eligible for any of
So-
the conference meet or district meet, or, so it's kind of a required deal with the track.
We'll look at both at the same time.
Yep. Who else do you think as a board, our administration, who else should be involved in that?
Well, I don't know if that's, you know,
Well, until you'll know all that,
So-
you know, phone lines will probably be one thing that he'd suggest also, that stay, or, you know, that are a requirement for the press box. I mean,
the only other thing we thought of is, you know, talking to insurance company just for liability reasons, to know what you're supposed to have if you, and not for railings and things like that. You know, that's kind of scary.
We did meet him out there. What was the deal? Me and Bruce met him out there.
Anyway.
The guy from the
Yeah. He didn't seem too concerned about it all being crooked and kitty wampus and everything, and I didn't believe that.
We'll just, how about if we ask Telly to talk to the coaches? That way it's maybe 3 fewer people that we have to try to work around schedules at least. Or we'll set a time and date and anybody that wants to come.
That might be the other way to do it. I mean, you could do both ways, set a time and date, and then have Kelly talk to them and say, if you want to be there.
There's not gonna be, if you can't make it, give me your input.
The only other thing would be, we probably need to get old Bruce, and we need prices of like front rails and side rails, and I mean, it might make a difference on if we raise them or not. If it's not that much to elevate them, maybe that's the thing to do.
I wrote down cost for risers under Bruce's list of things, so.
Just take it moving on that. Rec center, should have got a draft of the agreement. I know Barb, she's had some conversations with the city, maybe you want to relay those to what you
Yeah,
found out.
I faxed this document that's got the strikeouts and the bold on it. It's what you looked at earlier. It was the changes that you requested that I make. I faxed this to him, asked him if he'd just have the council take a look at it informally, and called him back after the council meeting. He said, only question that came up, and it came up after the council meeting, was item number 2 at the bottom of the page. When the district agrees to the following conditions, number 2 says youth teams, those not associated with school, will not be charged to use the rec center. And he said someone outside of the council meeting said to him they thought that seemed odd that we were interested or trying to negotiate for other youth teams. And I said, I think the board's thoughts were that they were representing the youth of the school district, and that our plans to use it are very minimal, and even for the $7,500. So having those kids not have to pay to have youth teams use it was part of the thinking. So the other copy that doesn't have strikeouts and doesn't have bold on it is just the cleaned up version of this. And his suggestion was that the board take action on it, that I present it to the rec center, and the rec center would present it to the city.
I have some questions about it.
Okay?
It has strong implications. It means that you're not planning to have swimming. Because it says right at the top, when you cross out the portion, provide the use of facility for pre-scheduled physical education classes. Swimming is a pre-scheduled physical education